Get ready before life happens. The podcast helping you navigate life's what ifs.
What does it mean to retire well? Welcome back to Get Ready Before Life Happens. Today I'm joined by Mike Milligan, author of the One-of-a-Kind Financial Plan book. Mike, welcome to Get Ready Before Life Happens.
Tony, I'm glad to be here, and congratulations on the great new name for your podcast.
Well, thanks. Appreciate it. Hopefully people are liking it. So, let's jump in. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your origin story and how did it lead you to the concept of retirement chi?
Yeah, so I am originally from a little town in North Carolina. That town has not produced a lot in its life. It's just like small town America, but it has produced some really, really strong financial folks. Two of the top 50 certified financial planners, as recognized by the industry, have come from there, and I've been lucky enough to be one of them. But I think it's because of I got this early start on business when I was 11 years old. My grandmother and grandfather had a life event where my grandfather could no longer work. He was the sole breadwinner of the family, but he was injured, eventually was diagnosed with cancer, passed away. He had provided for the income for the family forever, and my grandmother had to start a business out of desperation. She was 64 years old,
Wow.
and she started selling collared sandwiches to people around the community, and then eventually started selling dessert cakes. But her sales staff and her operations team consisted of me, her 11-year-old grandson. A lot of times my aunts, uncles, and my mother even would come over late at night to help, but they were all working full-time jobs. And so she became an entrepreneur not because she wanted to. She wanted to be a wife. She wanted to be a mother and a grandmother. She wanted to stay married, but life took this spin, this dramatic spin for her, and forced her into to innovate through desperation. I got to witness it. I got to sell these sandwiches with her. I get to count the money, and I got to help her open bank accounts and store money aside. And from 11 until I graduated from high school, I went to work. I went to school, I played baseball, and I sold collared sandwiches. That's what I did. And it led me, but I loved the money aspect of it. I loved seeing what money could do. It paid my grandmother's bills. I would see her, we would go out with a cooler full of these collared sandwiches. And I didn't know the stress. I know the stress that she went through now, but we'd go through and sell them. We'd be done. We'd have the money, and then on the way home, she said, we got to make a stop, and it was to Bell Atlantic to pay the phone bill that was 4 months late. I didn't know that stress that she had, but now I see, in retrospect, 40 years later, what she was living through. She was living through absolute hell, the loss of her spouse, bill collectors calling in, and she made it. She's become my eternal business coach. I always ask myself, I've studied some of the best business coaches out there, the most successful innovators in the entrepreneurial space. We sometimes forget that Jeff Bezos was an entrepreneur. He runs one of the largest companies in the world now. We forget that Elon Musk was once an entrepreneur. We forget that Larry Ellison, entrepreneur. That just so happens they build these multi-billion, soon to be trillion-dollar companies. But they started as entrepreneurs. They started in garages. And so I've read their stories, right? But I gained knowledge from them. But then I also think back what my grandmother did. And that's how I began. So fast forward to today, 30 years academic and professional experience helping people. I founded a company called One Oak Financial, where One Oak stands for one of a kind. We literally help people build one-of-a-kind financial plans because they live a one-of-a-kind life. And my work spans across advising clients, teaching personal financial planning at the university level, and I've created a media that makes planning feel practical and human, from the One of a Kind financial show to the Ideas by Mike podcast and to my books that I write. I've written the book called The One of a Kind Financial Plan, and I've also written a book called Retirement Chi, which you asked about. Retirement Chi for me is the vision or job description of what your life would be when you work less. See, Tony, we all in our jobs, whether or not you're an engineer or a doctor or you're the manager of a retail store, you're whatever your job has been, you knew going into the job every day what you would do at that job. Retirement should be the same. Like, you should know when you wake up on a random Tuesday, what are you doing today? But you should know on a Saturday what you're doing. You should know on a Monday, because if you don't, then retirement just becomes this endless string of Saturdays where there's nothing to do and you get lost. So Retirement Chi is about building a vision for retirement, building inner peace, being where you are. The Chi stands for community, health, and impact. And you create a vision for each of those, and then you move forward, knowing that the rest of your life is about making an impact, but also fulfilling your retirement Chi, having the best possible health you have, best relationships you can have, and then seeing the work of retirement be impactful on things that you are most passionate about.
Well, that's awesome. And it's interesting when you talk about your grandmother, is that we do learn so much in life from the people who are a part of our lives, but they're the ones who actually, in some cases, do things that are even more memorable or more impactful than, that's not to downplay what Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos have built by any means, but it's very different.
It is.
Those are not necessarily always applicable to all of us.
Well, yeah, because it's hard to relate to billionaires, right? And they have not always been billionaires. But like, the interesting thing about, like, even like the Get Ready movement that you've put together is that it's about financial readiness and financial literacy and reshaping how we think about money. But for most of us, money is something that has been caught through experience of others, then taught along the way. And we come to this intersection in life, and that we have to go back and think about, like, what are our first memories of money. I have a clear vision of what my first memory of money was, just because I do money all day every day. But until somebody really thinks back and looks in their past and says, what's my first memory of money, what did that mean to me, and then how did that imprint on my life, and then see the constant journeys on that imprinted experience we had with it, how that's impacted your decisions. It's hard to kind of move forward and create your own path for money. It's hard to understand, like, a concept of money and what it is. And so it's so important that whether for some people it could be like their first memory of money was having to take a grandparent to a nursing home and mom and dad crying because they didn't have money to pay for it. It could be others that they went out to dinner with their family and always drank water, right? Everybody else, they could be that they remember their best friend in second grade coming home and bragging about going to Disney World and how that was the sixth time they went, and they never got to go, right? And there's all these money scripts that are in us that until you really go back and visit your first memory of money and see how that played out over time, it's hard to move forward in, like, your own personal journey with money.
Yeah, and money stories are so important. And, sometimes we do overlook them or not talk about them, but those early experiences do impact every financial decision we make. And they're always there in the back of our minds. The example that hits home with me is my grandfather went bankrupt during the Great Depression. Now, I wasn't alive during the Great Depression, but I grew up with that story
Hmm.
and knowing that. So it's something that I always have in the back of my mind is like he owned a couple laundromats and he lost his business like so many other people in the Great Depression. So it's like it's imprinted on me like, okay, things could go really bad no matter how much planning and preparation I have. And that's always something that's going to impact me. I know that it's not necessarily a realistic concern, but it's still there in the background.
The 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 Great Depression was 97 years ago, or at least that's when it started. It lasted longer than that. We have we have lost the generation that can remind us of the stories. And history will repeat itself at some point. The United States and all of its greatness, right? What its innovation, its people will experience a severe economic downturn like that again in the future. And so but right now is there's many people who have not heard the stories and the tales like you remember the stories in your family of like what happened to your granddad. Andrew Sorkin just wrote a book called 1929, and it's come out. Andrew Sorkin is I think he's on CBS. He's a commentator. I think that's where he is. Don't that may not be 100% factual, but he did write the book 1929, and it talks about what led up to the Great Depression. If you're going to get ready, right, for what comes in the future, you have to go back and learn from the past. And it's not only so it's your money scripts, but it's also like what's repeated itself, because that's why we have things like today, like asset allocation and diversification and emergency funds. And it's not because of it's not because we don't all want higher returns. We all want higher returns. But what happens if we wake up one day and the stock market's down 40% and then within 6 months it's down another 50? Right? That'd be catastrophic for people. So that's why, I mean, like if folks are really looking toward the future, learning from the past is a great indicator. And it's also for our legacy, it's important that we keep stories pushing forward, like your story about your granddad in the Great Depression. More people need to hear that, right? Because especially business owners, by the way, because like your granddad probably put everything he had, not only his time but all of his energy and his investment, back into the laundromat. He didn't diversify where he was putting money. And that's true of most small business owners, most entrepreneurs. They continue to reinvest because they see the real return. They see what it does to impact their livelihood. And why should I diversify? Because I can put $1,000 into the business and it turns into $3,000. Why wouldn't I continue to do that? I can't put $1,000 in the stock market and in 60 days it be 3,000. Why don't I keep doing? But it's still, you have to diversify. You have to spread out the risk, because if something were to happen, then it's going to be hard to be hard to go home and tell the family that I risk it all. I risk all of our future on the
Well,
business.
it comes back to that simple saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. I mean, that says it all right there.
Yes, it does.
So, let's talk about retirement sheet a little bit more. How is it different from traditional retirement planning?
So I wrote the book, The One of a Kind Financial Plan, and in there it has a chapter about retirement sheet. But in the framework of like people reading that book, that's where most people want to hear me talk more, is about that one chapter. They have like zeroed in on that one chapter and said, how's it different? Well, first of all, like financial planning has gotten away from what it should be. It's a personal financial plan. In one way, most ways, most companies have commoditized financial plan. They've made the same financial plan available for everybody. And then AI, artificial intelligence, is out there now. People are going into chat and they're putting in, say, build me a financial plan. And the interesting thing about chat's financial plan is everybody who's 56 years old and is married with 2 kids, they're getting the same exact financial plan. It's one size fits all. The one of a kind financial plan is there to get you to realize the things that cost you the most in life: taxes, not having a written retirement income plan, having too much risk in retirement in your investments, not having an end of life long term care plan, and not having a legacy plan that means you would have a probatable estate. But retirement chi is the difference in this. Because after you answer the question, why is money important to you? Like, why is money important? Well, what do you want money to do? Why did you save it? What is its purpose in your life? Because money is not the end all. It is the tool that's there to help you be who you are meant to be. And so after you identify that why is money important, then retirement chi. This is what makes it truly a difference. It's about you, right? A software engineer at Google, for instance, and they probably have thousands of software engineers at Google's, right? They're all doing the same thing. They're keeping the Google engine up and going. All right. A financial plan that does the exact same thing for everybody. And unfortunately, that's where we've come in this world, right? Everybody has a 401k. Everybody wants to get their mortgage paid off. Everybody's going to have Social Security. Well, Social Security, having a 401k, and having your mortgage paid off is not a financial plan. It's an outcome. A financial plan is, how do I replace the income I'm making in my current job so that I can work less? A financial plan is, how do I save money so that my grandson, Daniel, can go to college tax-free if he chooses, or have the money available to start something when he's 18 years old. How a financial plan answers questions that are deeply personal. And that's what retirement chi is different. Retirement chi is your vision statement for your community. Those are the people you want to interact with, the people you love, the people that bring you energy. So how do you spend time with your community? How do you focus on your health before it becomes your focus? So does that mean that you play pickleball or walk 10,000 steps a day or eat more salads or go to the doctor more? What is that health plan for you? And then finally, what is your impact? Because if you are with people you love in community, if you have a good grasp on your health, well, then let's focus on what you could do to make an impact. Because people who are over 50 years old, and I turned that this year, what I've realized, I didn't know this until I got to the eve of being 50, but people that are over 50 have a lot of wisdom. And they didn't all of a sudden wake up when they're 50 and get smart. What they have is they have these life experiences that where they have learned things. They've read books. They've lived life. They've seen how not to treat people. They've seen where real needs are. And like the impact when you're just because you're retired does not mean you're dead. And you still have this ability to make a tremendous impact. There's the potential to make the world a better place. There's a specific type of potential that one of the, I think Albert Einstein created, like that, like equal and opposite reactions, right? Newton's laws of physics, equals opposite reaction. And it's called potential. So like when something hits each other, it's the kinetics. It's going back the opposite way. The interesting thing about the potential that lies with retirees and influence, the potential to make the world a better place comes from the wisdom that lies in the knowledge of people that are not dead yet, that can tell stories, that can guide the future, that can help people fail less because they failed before. And that's where I think when you have a retirement chi, a vision on community health and impact, you can build a retirement plan that is all about your one-of-a-kind life.
I love that because, for me, it always comes back to, it's called personal finance because it should be personal. We've definitely gotten away from that with cookie cutter financial plans and cookie cutter financial advice. Everybody should pay, whatever, sometimes it's like even debt. is like debt can be good in certain circumstances if it's managed correctly, that, there's not always a hard and fast rule. One of the things I want to make sure we cover is the importance of community. It's something that you talk about. Is why is community such a powerful predictor of happiness and longevity?
Yeah, that's a great that's a great question. I mean, it's such a deeply rooted personal question, by the way, too, because happiness is so subjective, right? There's people who have it all who are unhappy, and people that have nothing who have the biggest smile on their face. And so it's hard to answer a question with so much subjectivity attached to it. I do know this, right? That money should always be a conversation. It should never be, and that conversation should never end. It should never be a lecture. It should never be something that people speak down to you about. It should be a conversation that we as each other have. And I know, Tony, you've said that many times on your podcast, that you, I think in your teachings too, you've said that, you found the best planning meetings feel more like good radio than a compliance review. Right. And that's, unfortunately, advisors have forgotten that. Right. And many of those people that we trust in the industry treat like a meeting, a financial plan, like a box that, you're trying to get the SEC approval on, the Securities and Exchange Commission's approval, not the client's approval on. And so, I mean, I think if you has a conversation, define happiness for what it is, and move forward, you could feel confident that your life can be fulfilled.
Yeah, I think that's so important when you say that defining happiness is because we all have a different dream of what retirement looks like for us, but yet, we're following the same rules. Are we going to have 4% that we pull out in retirement? But that's not necessarily something that's relevant for us. And the other thing, just super quick, is, I hearken back to what you were saying about Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, and it doesn't seem like there would ever be enough money that would satisfy either one of them, that would make them happy, that there's an endpoint where they would say, wow, I'm happy, I'm satisfied.
Well, I would love to interview Elon Musk, like on my podcast, or if you ever get to interview Elon Musk on your podcast, I'd love for you to ask him this question, because this is a question I would ask. I would say, Elon, if I can guarantee you another 20 years of living, would you give everything you have away? If I could guarantee that you're at a minimum, you're going to live 20 more years, would you give every dollar you have away? And I think his answer would be yes. Because I don't care if you have, $500 billion or 5 cents to your name, that one of the most anxious feeling moments of our life is getting near the end of our life and not knowing when the last day is going to be. I think people want certainty. They want guarantees in life. And like, if you offer the richest person in the world a certainty that they're going to live to a certain age, I mean, like, he would negotiate with you. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you had the power to give him, he would say, how about 50 years? How about 100 years, right? But he would negotiate. I mean, it is interesting. Like, wealth is as much a mindset as it is a number on a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I love that. Wealth is a mindset as much as a number. And I think we tend to forget that is, and you said it is, just to repeat it, is that you don't need a lot of money to be happy, is you need enough money to be enough
Right.
for you to take care of what you want to take care of.
It is, right? And so, like, taking care of our family, our friends, our neighbors, helping people get ready, right, for what's to come in the future is important, right? There's the future is spotless. I don't know if you've ever said this before, you've ever heard anybody say this before, but the future is spotless. It's the only thing in our life without a spot, because our past has a lot of blemishes on it. Our present, we're not. We always end the day with things on our to-do list. Always. We're never satisfied with what we do. But the future is spotless. The interesting thing about the future is it's just, are we going to be there or not? My wife and I live in San Juan, Puerto Rico now, and that's not for everybody. We love the tropical air. We love the ocean. We love the people that we've met. We love the food. We love the energy of the island. But we know it's not for everybody. But just the other night, we're walking back from dinner, and I just got this. I got this notion that like I had told my wife, everybody that we're going to walk past on the street, and there were a lot of people out. Everybody we walk back past on the street, we all have something in common: is we're all going to die. But the sidewalk is still going to be here. Right. And I posed the question, is it fair that the sidewalk still gets to be here, but we living, breathing creatures are going to move on? And it's one of those questions that is unanswerable, right? Because it's just the truth. Somebody else is going to be walking that sidewalk. The thing is, like, from here to there, from the time between we have now and the time we get there, what can we do to live a really fulfilling life? What can we do to live up to our unique, one-of-a-kind life? How can we plan? How can we escape one-size-fits-all, same answers to different questions that financial services firm gives? And again, I'll say that again. You ask a different question. Everybody that's listening to this will ask some of the biggest financial companies in the world a different question, because you're trying to make it about you, but they give the same answer, no matter what the question is. And it's time to break free. The Get Ready movement, the one-of-a-kind financial plan movement. There's a lot of people in the market today that are here to help you with the what-ifs in life. What if you lose your job? What if you pass away early? What if you don't? What if you run out of money? What if inflation goes to 10%? What if the stock market goes down 50%? There's a lot of people to answer those what ifs. And every time you get a what if question answered, stress and anxiety go down. And one of the things is when you talk to a one size fits all cookie cutter financial service company, we call those companies OK Financial, by the way. You're just OK. OK Financial. OK Financial. Those companies will give you the same answer. Well, that's not going to happen. I mean, sure it can happen, but it's not going to happen. But that brings no comfort at all to people. Work with professionals work with people that have your same ethos, that you feel trustworthy with, that have your same horizon on life, same viewpoints of life, and work with people that in the end help reduce fear and anxiety and make you feel more comfortable about what the future holds.
I love that. That is something I urge people, to work with somebody you're aligned with. If you're not aligned with somebody, it's going to be hard to get good advice from them, or not necessarily good advice, but the advice that's right for you is probably the better way to put it. So, Mike, to start to wrap up, I have what's called the Get Ready Hot Take Trio, and these are 3 quick questions that I ask all of my guests. The first one is, what's one retirement planning myth you're trying to break?
Taxes don't go down in retirement. It's just a lie, folks. In order for your tax rate to go down, you had to do some very deep planning in order to make that happen. And most people don't do that. Most people defer taxes into the future. But folks, your taxes, unless you plan for it, or unless you're willing to live on a significantly, you're willing to downsize your life, create a significantly less expensive life, taxes do not go down in retirement.
I love it. That's a great myth to break. So, Mike, let's get out the time machine for a minute. If you could go back in time, knowing what you know now about money, what advice would you give yourself?
I mean, obviously, the things that come to mind first is buy Amazon stock under $1 and buy as much of it
There
as
you
you can.
go.
Buy Bitcoin when it was 10 cents. I mean, they got all these things, right? But the thing about that question is, if you had a time machine and you can go back, I think I'd have made better decisions on and I don't think it would be about money. I think it would be more about relationships, right? Spend more time, like with my grandmother, for instance, or my brother who passed away when he was 41 years old. I think that would be like, if I could go back, if I could write a letter to my younger self, it would be relationships greater than money, not the other way around. It's don't pursue money at the cost of relationships.
I love that. And I think that's something, you hear from everyone that they're 90 years old and nobody goes, boy, I wish I'd worked more and spent less time with my family. You
No,
know?
nobody on their deathbed ever says, nobody on their deathbed says, man, I wish I'd have bought more stock. Nobody. Nobody says, man, I wish I would have taken a bigger stand. I wish I'd have taken more deductions on my tax return. Man, people always want what's they always want more experiences than anything else.
Definitely. Although you made me laugh about Amazon, is I always think back to, I had a friend who was very high on Amazon when they were first starting out. And I kept saying, they're never going to make it as an online bookstore. That's,
Right.
that's a crazy concept. And yeah, I guess Jeff Bezos proved us a little bit wrong on that one.
He did. He 100% did.
So the last question is, what's your number one tip to change the way we think about retirement?
Um, I, the number one tip I give is until you know why money's important to you and you know how to build a vision for yourself, retirement is a guess. Because if you don't know what you're putting everything in place for, if you don't have the hard conversations with a spouse, if you're married, or with yourself, if you're an individual, if you don't have the conversations and get a great feel for what you're going to be in retirement, who you're going to be, what you want to be, then retirement is in itself just a fairy tale land. That although Disney World is nice, right? It's a great place to visit. People are happy. It's not a great place to live, right? So I think in retirement you have to get real with yourself. Why is money important to you, and what is your vision for what retirement is? And then when you build that, especially if you can't articulate those two things, because if you have like an investment manager or a financial planner or an insurance person helping you with your money, and they don't know why money's important and what your vision is, then you're getting the same thing that every one of their clients is getting. You're not getting anything customized. You're not getting anything unique. You're getting the status quo. You're getting a Big Mac when what you really want is a Wagyu beef burger. And we all like those. We all like customized food better than we like status quo food, same that everybody gets. So, but just make sure your retirement, your finances line up with who you are as a person. The financial planning is about you. And then you're ready to kind of move forward.
I love that. Line up with who you are as a person. I'm just making a note on that because I think that is very powerful. So, Mike, where can people learn more about you, your firm, and pick up a copy of the the one of a kind financial plan book?
Yeah, we'll start there because that's easy. Amazon, our friend Jeff Bezos created this little platform to sell books.
We're just going to make him a little richer today.
Right, we're going to make him a little bit richer, and I'm fine with that, right? Because the distribution is a whole lot easier than to find it other ways. But you can just go on to Amazon.com and search either my name, Mike Milligan, and you'll find, or the One of a Kind Financial Plan. And when you see that, you're going to see 20 plus reviews, almost a 5-star rating. A couple, I think, of chapters there, and then I'd love for people to read it. After you read it, or buy a couple copies for family, then you can reach out to me one of two ways at MikeMilligan.com, just my name, MikeMilligan.com, MikeMilligan.com, or our company is One Oak Financial. One Oak stands for one of a kind, but the website is the number one oakfinancial.com. And you'll, as soon as you hit that website, you'll realize that we are different. So whether or not you buy the book and read it, whether or not you go to Mike Milligan to learn more about like my coaching and planning courses that I teach at Old Dominion University, or you go to our financial website, I just want all of your listeners to know, Tony, that they are one of a kind. They are unique. And if they don't feel that way, they are, and they need a financial plan that reflects that.
I love that. I love that. And so, for everybody watching and listening, as always, if you have access to the show notes, there will be links to Mike's book as well as to his website and social media profiles. So you can go to the show notes for those links. Mike, thanks for joining us on Get Ready Before Life Happens.
It was an absolute joy, Tony. And good luck to you and everybody who's your listeners in this whole Get Ready movement that you're putting out in front of them.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. And as always, thank you everybody for tuning into this episode of Get Ready Before Life Happens. If you learned something today to change the way you think about retirement, please be sure to subscribe and to share this episode with a friend. You can also go to my website at tonystewart.com to join the Get Ready movement, get access to my newsletter and a whole bunch of resources. Until next time, let's change the way we think about money.